All right, Craig Wagner, Peter Christensen here, going through page 2 of the REPC.
Yes.
And this does follow the theme with regards to some of the more important information, front-loading the contract, really a lot of the fillable language. We're hoping to be more towards the front so that you can see those. So let's dive right into it, Peter. Section 5. Now, this is where earnest money, I would have loved to have this section on page 1, but you're right. We kind of ran out of time.
We tried.
So it still has prime real estate.
Yeah.
On page 2, top of page 2.
It's on the deuce.
Yes, there you go.
ESPN 1 or 2. It's pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Earnest money deposit. So the timeline with regards to delivery and deposit remains the same, the 4 and 4. Now, with a little caveat, I know I saw you. Well, yeah, your head twitched a little bit. We'll a little teaser with that, but
yeah, watch all the videos.
Yeah, make sure you get to video number 6 and 7. But here you got the earnest money. You do describe the form. You certainly could put a number of things there, but it does. The default's going to be the buyer's brokerage trust account is where you deliver the earnest money, and that's where it gets deposited. Or you could check a box, and it would be deposited with a title company. If you are going to be depositing with a title company, and you check that box, you do still need the deposit of earnest money with title company addendum. That's a state-approved form. It is something that you're still going to need because it has other relevant information, namely to highlight that, look, the Department of Insurance oversees title companies, not the Division of Real Estate. Now, a big addition, and this is something that that's come up over the years, over 14 years at the UAR. If the earnest money deposit is not delivered or deposited within the time frame described above, seller may, in seller's sole discretion, cancel the REPC and pursue any remedies available at law. Now, this is pretty...
This was never controversial in my mind.
But now it's here.
But I always thought that was the case anyway, and I still argue it.
Sure.
It was. But there were people that argued, not sure if that constitutes a significant default or breach.
Sure.
But now it's right in there. No questions.
And it says may, and it is connecting it to delivery and deposit within the time frame. And you're right. The rationale behind this was, man, this is one of buyer and buyer's brokerage's core functions early on in the purchase contract. Mm-hmm. This is what the buyer has promised to have done. And frankly, look, now that the buyer's brokerage is part of this, which they frankly have already been part of, yeah, you got to have that discussion with your buyer early on about the time frames. One easy way to comply with this is to get the earnest money before you even go under contract. Like, you could have that deposited in your broker's trust account. And again, that could be a highlight to a seller that, look, I'm already good to go on this. I'm already going to be compliant with this. And then you don't have any sort of, well, I hope I get it in time and I hope the seller doesn't cancel. Well, you alleviate that argument altogether. Mm-hmm. So that would be just my kind of minor recommendation to at least pay attention to that. Section 6, the addenda section. This was the old section 9 of the REPC. So
yes,
it got moved up, and it has been simplified.
I like it.
Yeah.
We used to have a few check boxes of
FHA,
specifically
seller
named,
financing. Yeah.
And instead it now just says, are there any addenda? And if there are, just put the numbers.
Put them in there. Yep, just put the numbers that are in there. So if you have 3, then you put 1, 2, 3. Then you're good.
Excellent.
Okay, section 7, included items. This should look fairly familiar. This was on, page 1 of the old REPC.
Right, it was the first thing.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that as odd until we started reformatting, and I thought, why was that like the most? That's the first thing we address is what's included.
Sure. So these
are important.
Yeah, it's important. So section 7.1 and 7.2, these are the things that are going to be included by default if they're presently owned and in place on the property. So some things that were added You've got installed projectors, all installed projector mounting brackets, mounted projector screens. Kind of sense a little theme there.
You can tell what agents were writing checks for
Yes.
in the past 8 years.
Those aren't cheap.
No.
Those aren't cheap.
No, they're really not. Huh?
And oftentimes they're selling points, and so
Yeah.
if it's meant to just alleviate any sort of disagreement.
Sheds.
That's
a good one.
I like that one because I have hypotheticals where people have actually taken the shed. Lifetime shed, they just break
No
it down.
shed is too big to move when your brother owns a crane truck.
That's true.
That was an ethics hearing.
That's true. And then any of the kind of dedicated components to make these systems work stay.
And that's a good one because, man, it is hard to define adequately what's included.
Right.
You know, you miss some wire, you miss some mount, you miss some component, and the whole system doesn't work. And I like this that it just kind of throws in stuff that is used, that's integrated into this smart home system. That's all going to stay unless you exclude it.
Yeah. So the seller can really make that determination before going under contract or in their counteroffer. 7.2, an entirely new subsection. This deals with home automation systems. And to be frank, this sort of language was one of the impetus for the change of the REPC in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we need to update it for smart home features. Well, here's the it's only a paragraph. This is what kind of, spearheaded the other sections to take a look at it. So all the smart home features, home monitors, video doorbells, all of those things that are, for home automation systems are now included. 7.3, additional included items.
Something's missing. Microwaves.
Microwaves.
Microwaves are taken out.
For some reason, I always thought it was part of 7.1 because it does say 7.1 microwave ovens in there. So it's in by default under 7.1.
There you go.
But we did add EV charging stations and associated equipment, just because that's becoming more prevalent.
It's in a lot of garages. I also like the line up above, have been assigned no value. And that's really something that sometimes comes up in underwriting scenarios, or why are these being included? Are these being purchased? This is just making clear these are just being left for the convenience of the parties.
Right.
They are not being assigned value. And is it necessary to have that in there? Probably not, but it's nice to clarify.
Yeah, exactly. 7.5, water service. The biggest change in this section is really the fillable portion, where you could identify the specific water rights or shares. People were doing that. It was meant to exclude language, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people were doing it because they were trying to identify, thinking, I'm going to be. They weren't reading the language and they were putting it in, but by putting it in, they were actually excluding what they were trying to keep. And really, most buyers aren't going to have the information as to what the seller owns with regards to water. So we just said, look, that should be a counter from the seller.
Yeah.
By default, everything stays, but seller, what you have. You go ahead and counter if you want to preserve something. Which
is smart.
Yeah. Section 8, this is prorations, assessments, other payment obligations. 8.1, I don't recall anything really changing in 8.1. 8.2, special assessments, some minor changes, but I think good, just because sometimes the HOA does levy a special assessment that might not. I think the majority are for capital improvements, but it might not be for capital improvements. And so this is that the capital language was eliminated.
Removed, yeah.
Yep. 8.3, you've got fees, cost, payment obligations. You've got the HOA, other entity fees due on change of ownership. This was a section that was added back in 2018, but what language was added to this section just for clarity's sake?
Yeah, it's right in the middle, and it tries to differentiate between what is a fee associated with the transfer and what's a new setup fee for a buyer. So it says any HOA setup fees or buyer administrative fees are buyer's responsibility and not considered a change of ownership a change of ownership fee. So basically, you're setting up your new utilities. You're setting up an account with the HOA or whatever is really a startup fee. They're trying to take the argument out of it by saying that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about good old-fashioned fees associated with a transfer of ownership and not a new client setup fee.
Excellent. And we could have gone either way, but ultimately now there's clarity to that point. And that is, in essence, page 2 of the new REPC.
There you go.
Stay tuned for page 3.